Hello and welcome to the Startup Speakeasy by KPMG in India. My name is Karan Marwah and I'm here today with a dear friend, Varun Gera, who's also the founder of a company called HealthAssure. Varun and I have known each other for some time, but I still can't say whether I know the real Varun because he's a man of very many interests and he's got a number of passions. I'm hoping to unravel some of them today. Varun, thanks for coming over. It's always great to see you.
Thanks, Karan.
Different setting
My
today,
pleasure.
but
Yeah, of course.
it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So let me start with that, right? Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
I know you do so many things and you find time to do so many
Yeah,
different things.
yeah.
And we were just trying to do a inventory before we started this. I think
Yeah.
that you hike,
Yeah.
you bike, both forms of biking,
Yeah,
right? Motorbiking,
yeah,
cycling.
yeah,
You trek.
Yeah.
You're a art connoisseur,
yeah.
and I think that runs in the family.
Yeah, runs in the
I
family.
can say that. What
Yeah.
else? Am I missing something?
Yeah, entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes, of
That's
course.
why we are here.
So how do you do justice to so many different things, Varun?
Well,
And who's the real Varun? Is he an artist? Is he an entrepreneur? Is he something else? Or
yeah, I
someone
think
else?
so. The way I see it, Karan, is I always wanted to break out. I was someone who could not be straitjacketed.
Yeah.
Whether it was school or college or wherever it was, I had to like run out and do things. So I think I did a decent job in the corporate world, but I realized after some time that it's a lot of straitjacketing.
Yeah.
And for me, then it was about becoming an entrepreneur. But I think what the base of it, which allowed me to get into so many various interests and passions, which was just break out, do new things, experience and explore new things. And yeah, I think now I feel so blessed that I can look anywhere and I can jump in and sing. I had a great time.
I can imagine. How was growing up?
So growing up, I'm a Delhi boy.
Yeah.
And growing up was a middle-class family, South Delhi. I remember myself always in the playground, lots of friends.
Any favorite sport?
I used to play football quite a bit, basketball quite a bit. I was in the school basketball team. So yeah, I think growing up was I think I can just remember fun and laughter, and school was also there on the side.
Yeah. Much like now, I guess. With all your passions, you find time for everything.
Yeah, I think, but being an entrepreneur, I think you kind of have to put a lot of eggs in that entrepreneur basket.
I'm sure you do,
know.
yeah.
So I think that becomes a little bit challenging sometimes because, it's a lot of you have to get up in the morning, structure yourself a lot more than what I was used to earlier. But I think that's also given me some training to get more disciplined and be focused about the objective at hand.
So you started out, I guess, in the corporate world, like a lot of us. And if I get it right, you were at a company that was doing electronics.
Yeah,
And
I
then
started
you
with that.
switched to credit cards, if I'm not mistaken?
Then I switched to
Financial
consulting
services.
actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I missed that one, I guess.
I was in Deloitte for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where? In the US?
No, I was here. I was very much here.
And what were you doing?
I was in consulting side,
Fantastic.
your field. Yeah.
So now you feel my pain. And then you...
Suppose that I joined GE, GE Money. At that time, GE was trying to be a consumer finance company.
Yeah,
So at that
yeah,
time, we
yeah.
had, Maruti Countrywide and stuff like that. Consumer finance was still a taboo. Customers did not want to be seen taking loans.
Taking loans.
So it was a very interesting journey for us.
And
to
you
be
scaled
able
that up
to-
quite
we
a
scaled
bit,
that up, yeah. I think so. I was heading their consumer durable financing. And I remember we used to just be like 6-7% of the entire
Which years
sales.
was this?
This was 99 to 2003.
Oh, yeah. So that was really early for...
That was very early, yeah. So at that time, we used to go to like the manufacturers like Samsungs and LGs,
Yeah.
the names I gave. But for us to get the subvention from them and get them a 0% in the market.
Yeah.
So we really built it up. And now I'm told that the financing part consumes more than 20-25% of the entire sales business. So
Oh, yeah. I think that's the oil that lubricates
Exactly.
that sale.
Yeah.
And then you switched to healthcare. At what point did that happen?
Then I switched to actually, again, form of consumer finance. So I went to corporate cards, credit
Okay.
cards.
Yeah, I thought there was a credit card piece there.
So the connection between the healthcare and consumer finance is very, very close. So you're taking, so I would think like this is more like insurance, you know. So from consumer finance, you're taking risk on the person's repaying capability.
Yeah.
And out here you're paying, you know, taking risk on the person's health. So first was consumer finance. So I was heading corporate cards and credit cards for one of the leading Indian banks. And then I moved to, you know, healthcare / insurance. So we are very well connected into health and insurance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this was still in the corporate world, right? Before you set
Still in
up
the
your
corporate
own
world. Yeah.
business.
So so I think my prior job on the healthcare side was leading the world's largest health insurance
I know.
player. I was heading the Indian market. And again, very interesting times. I think so. Of course, they wanted to, you know, get into India and be an insurance company. And I think I got a lot of insights into how they operate. And they've been around for the last 50, 60 years. So to see how the mechanics work and how they operate and what are we missing out here.
Yeah.
And I saw some real opportunities about what, you know, I would like to do to make that change in the industry, because I realized that India is too complex for a multinational to really make that kind of change.
Make and have an impact.
Yeah. So that's when it just compelled me to go towards it, and I picked up an idea which was big enough in that space, and it's been 13 years since then.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
But do you think the corporate experience gave you the grounding to be able to do this? Would you do it any differently, I guess? Would you have started up earlier in hindsight?
Very
or
interesting.
you think you started up at the right time?
So very interesting. I think so. It depends on person to person.
There's no right time. Yeah.
So exactly. So I think there are some people as entrepreneurs who don't want to work, or they just work for 2 or 3 years and they just jump into becoming an entrepreneur. They're just made like that, and they would take very high risks. And there are some other people like me who want to learn more, who want to experience more, and then
land on what you really want to do, right?
Yeah. So I think in that regard, I think the pros and the cons are there on both the sides. Of course, I think when you're older, then you can't take as many risks, you know. But the good thing is that you already learned many things, so you don't have to start from scratch.
You actually learn what risks not to take, I guess, in a manner of speaking.
That too. So, no, I think so. For me, I think it was a great experience. I think to jump and say, I'm going to start something, that takes courage.
It does, yes.
So for me, to be able to have a clarity of thought that I want to do this, have the courage, I think so that has to come together, and that's what happened, and the rest is history.
But again, doing a deeper dive on that, where did that courage come from, right? Is it, like you said, if you start up early, then that fear of failure is possibly far lesser than when you have, a family, you've got responsibilities. So where did you find that courage?
So I had one more attribute. So courage and having some idea. The third one is where you say, I want to break out. So
a lot of us do that, yeah?
Yeah. So for me, again, I think it comes back to my basics, which was like I never wanted to be straitjacketed. And I was realizing that, as I was getting more and more further in the corporate world, and as I was getting higher and higher, I had to pretty much get more and more straitjacketed. So I said, I don't want to do this.
But this is in spite of you being in a pretty much a leadership position most of your career, right? To the later part of what you're doing in the corporate world.
Yeah, but there's a leader over the leader. So I think when you have to look at growth, you have to look at the next leader. So, and I think so. If I look at the trajectory of some of these leaders, they pretty much are all in. It's not that I'm not all in.
But that was going to be my next question.
But I have a lot of fun too. I think I'm probably very efficient, and I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
For me, that again is a lot of choice and freedom which I get.
It's interesting you say that because, being on the other side, by that I mean, again, being someone who's always done a job all my life, you always believe that it's actually far more tougher to, run your own business because you're responsible for so many people, you're responsible for, scaling up the business, and it's not easy, it's not getting easier to do business. But it's interesting you said that, right? That the fun quotient in what you do and the reason you, I guess, are still doing it. How do you balance that out, and where do you find that? How do you, where is that fun element coming from, and how do you make time for it, right? Because
So I think both the sides is tough. This is just more fun for me. But having said that, as an entrepreneur, the kind of sleepless nights you would have,
I would
you
imagine.
probably would not have as much of that in a job.
I think it's different stresses.
It's different stresses. But one advantage of being an entrepreneur is that it's your choice at all times.
Yeah.
And to have that freedom to say that if it goes up or if it goes down, you're okay with it.
Yeah. No, but again, it goes back to courage, right?
Yeah.
And having that maturity to realize that, you're on a path, it's a journey,
Yeah.
you will have, these aberrations,
Yeah.
not getting, too swayed by, either, right?
Yeah.
The highs and the lows.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult, I would imagine it's more difficult when you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah. It is. I would say it requires a lot of mental training to be able to.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Move
Yoga
up and
is
down.
another one of your
Yoga.
passions.
Yes,
How
yeah.
did we forget that? Is that where the mental strain comes from? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject back into this.
No, you're right. So yeah, I'm quite passionate about yoga. I devote maybe an hour of that to it every day.
How many hours in a day do you sort of have?
Good question.
All of us only have 24, but given the different
question.
number of different things you do, I'm sure you have more
I
than
try
24
and be a
hours.
little bit more efficient. Yeah. No, I think it is fun. I think whatever you do, I think if you prioritize something, you'll be surprised how much you can plug it into a day.
That's all in the mind, as they say.
Yeah, it is.
You will find time for what you want to do.
Totally.
So let's talk about HealthAssure. And I think you did mention that being in the similar business and space possibly gave you the initial sense of wanting to do this. But was there more to it? Given, healthcare is such a massive challenge and an opportunity in a country like ours, where it's so disaggregated. A large part of the population possibly doesn't have the means to afford the kind of quality healthcare and at the time that they need it. But what was there more to this than?
So I think when you look back, you can connect the dots. But I would say coming from the consumer finance side, and I remember the time when we had launched the 0% interest for loans on consumer durables and stuff like that. We really made consumer finance simple at that time. And it was so complex. It was like a bank, earlier it was like old banks, public sector banks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it used to take days and ages to get
Exactly.
stuff approved and dispersed.
And we used to give approvals in 15 minutes, half an hour, where a person could be sitting at a dealership and get loans for a TV or a fridge. So I think the good thing is that I saw that kind of transformation happen in the consumer finance. And when I got into the insurance or health insurance space, I saw that the similar transformation is required, and I could see it happen. I could see that we can make a change.
Yeah.
So, and they're very similar to each other, as I said. So I think
they're similar, but they're not, right?
They're
Again,
not.
You're dealing with people. You're dealing with very
It
different set of emotions and
is
very
complex.
evocative sort of outcomes either which way, right?
Yeah. Very true. So I think the way I look at health insurance companies is that it's a bank and a hospital together.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
It's a bank because all the functions of a bank, whether it's your underwriting, actuarial, customer service, sales, regulatory,
it's the same.
all
funnel.
of that is there.
Yeah.
And it's a hospital because you're supposed to understand every surgery which is happening.
Yeah.
And that's why the journeys of health insurance companies is long. And banks can be some cookie cutters.
Yeah.
You'll see how many of the banks can pretty much have operations, across the world. And how many insurance companies do you see that who can be transplanted? You'll have a brand which is there.
Yeah.
Operations are totally different.
Yeah,
Everything is different. So they both are different, but at least I saw some transformation easily possible on the consumer finance side. Now, the second part of the health insurance company is the health part.
Yeah, the service delivery itself.
Exactly. And this is where we jumped into. So focusing on primary care.
And that's a deep end of the pool.
That's a deep end of the pool, yeah. So I think given that, we've been running it for the last 13 years, and that's a fairly long time. So if I had asked myself that where will you be in 13 years, it's very different than where we are right now.
Is that even with the business, or are you saying more in terms of the overall environment and ecosystem? And
I think directionally it's the same direction, but you cannot fathom how it's going to be increasing, because I think as you keep going forward, you get more visibility for the next. So you might think differently, but so in that regard, I think I would say what we went with the so-called an objective, and when we started doing that actually on the ground, it took me like 6-7 years.
yeah,
But that's a great part. I think for you to be able to have that vision and keep driving that every day, and health or / insurance takes that time. And I see another 13 years, in terms of building this out. This journey about health, it doesn't end, because human body is the most complex machine in the world.
yeah, yeah.
And,
But at the end of the day, you're still running a business, right? So I mean, these are extremely long time spans to be able to, in a way, define and sharpen what you're doing, and obviously scale it up while you're doing that. At what point did you bring in external capital?
So,
Because I remember, I think you were bootstrapped
we haven't raised
for
too
the
much
longest
money.
time. Yeah, yeah.
We haven't raised too much money.
And is that what gives you that luxury to be patient?
That too, actually.
Yeah.
That too. But I think health is something which can't be you can't hit like typically a tech company.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why investors typically don't invest in this part of healthcare. They invest in a hospital, which again is a longer journey. They'd invest in a pharma company, which again is the external market, and once you make it,
It's a finite ecosystem in that sense, right? I mean, this is what you're doing is was and is so disaggregated.
Yeah. So we are building a solution which doesn't exist in the market.
Yeah.
So for an investor to come in and saying, hey, I really love you guys, to saying, I'm going to give you the money,
Write a check. Yeah.
that is a tougher, kind of decision making for that particular investor. I'm very happy of the investors that we've got, and they've been so great. I think they really chose us for the work that we are doing, rather than how it fits into their 3-4 year criteria.
Yeah.
And I think after 13 years of we operating, of course they came at various times, and whatever the world has gone through in the startup world, I would like to say that we are their so-called large standing company which makes profit. It's been an interesting kind of journey.
So again, maybe let's I guess unpack this, right?
Yeah.
In your mind, what is it that you're trying to solve? There is the the service delivery.
Yeah.
So there's customer experience.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
the consistency of customer
Yeah.
experience. That's even more important.
Yeah.
There is the whole aspect of dealing with lives and people and human beings. There is the the risk and underwriting the risk, and the financial side of it, like you said, the bank plus the hospital. What would you say you're trying to solve?
So, to make it very simple, we are trying to, make healthcare accessible to people, which is in terms of price, in terms of access. To say that, hey, I want to go to a GP, or I want to get an X-ray done.
Yeah.
It should be easy for you, no matter where you stay, to say, I have an access. And there's some places the access is further away, or you don't know about it. The second thing is price. Can I get a better price? Because health is expensive, or it's at least getting expensive in India. For some people, it is expensive.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the third thing is quality, of course. How can you assure a quality? And
that's the most critical thing, right? I think people will find the money to pay because it's not luxury, it's not a choice, right? It's not discretionary spending in that sense. But how do you, and you've got 20,000
providers across 1,200 cities in the country.
That's staggering. So again, so how do you make sure that you're choosing the right partners and customers are getting the outcomes they want?
Yeah, very good question. So I think I'll tell you what we do really. So I think we have a primary care network where we partner with primary care centers, could be hospitals, clinics, diagnostic centers, nursing homes, whatever it is, and we aggregate most forms of primary care across the country, and to the extent of saying that within 5 kilometers of any person in these 1,200 cities, we provide them 65,000 use cases of primary care. So someone might want only a GP plus X-ray, GP plus X-ray plus USG or things. So that becomes 3. So we provide 65,000 permutation combinations. And of course, we get it at a discount.
Yeah.
So that's the ground network. Then we have a tech platform on top of it. So what we are trying to do really is, for any person, there's a hyper-local access to primary care.
Yeah.
And one of the, so we call ourselves a network-based product company. So we have to really believe in the fact that we need to create good network which assures a particular quality.
Yeah.
For you to build something out where a customer gets good quality. But the final part is also a solutioning. You might have, all the money you want to give for a particular service, but you still don't get the kind of personalized care that you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
You still have questions after paying all the money because healthcare has become so complex and so discrete that if you have a complex problem, then you are talking to a diabetologist.
Yeah, even getting to a
separately.
diagnosis is
You'll have to maybe go around 3 different specialists and say, now what do I do?
get to the bottom, yeah.
So
to begin your treatment in a way.
Exactly. So I think healthcare is layers and layers of asset building, and that's what takes time. And we have built network, technology.
Yeah, but again, so my question was the
yeah,
how, right?
yeah.
So how do you ensure the quality and the consistency? And again, let me
Yeah.
add another question to this, right? Are you a tech-centric business?
Yeah.
Are you a tech-enabled business?
Yeah, very good question again. So we started off as a healthcare company. Then we became a health tech company because tech became an important part once we became a little bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we became a product company because we had a network really, and we said, what do we do with the network?
Yeah.
And we knew that there's an asset, but how do you monetize it? We saying, hey, we need to become a product company as well. Let's start understanding who all needs our products. And now we are at a stage right now that we are acquiring almost 3.5 lakh customers a month.
Wow.
And now I feel that tech can't be an enabler for us.
Yeah.
And if we are handling this customers and so many SKUs
volume,
and the
and
quality,
the permutation
as
that
you
you
said,
spoke of, right? 65,000 and counting.
Exactly. So, and I think these products have to evolve with time. So that can only be possible if you make your operations or your machine a lot more simpler.
Yeah.
Which requires serious tech. So I think we are becoming more tech. I think so. It's a lot of assets together, but yeah, we are definitely becoming a lot more tech.
And this is built on your own.
It's built on our own, or everything on our own.
So how large is your tech team, if I may ask?
We have around 38 people in the tech team.
That's still pretty lean for what you're trying to do, I suppose.
We've been around for 13 years, so we built every year, but I realize that if you really make the team very large, you might not solve a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
Because few things you can only see once you move a little forward.
Yeah, like you said, and it's iterating to the next best version of what you want to be.
Exactly. So if you start battling too many battles, then you might not be as sharp. So I think now we know exactly where we are going. And I'm very happy with this kind of a tech team. Maybe we can increase by another 10 people. But I don't see us becoming like a 100-member tech team. At one time we were 60, but I think definitely less than 50.
And you can't have a conversation today without AI.
Yeah.
How are you embracing it? And is it? I would imagine you already have a level of integration, but where do you see it going? And
so AI is like the storm which we can fathom but not see.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's a little scary as well because it'll change everything. So we're
it's
still
interesting. Something I heard yesterday that AI is something that you want to be your slave and not your master.
True. So so we are at that stage right now where we're trying to identify which are the areas where we can get immediate solutions through AI. And especially in our field where we get so many medical reports in a day. We probably get around 3,000 medical reports in a day.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we're trying to profile people. We're trying to see which customer has what kind of a problem and how can we help that person to be able to digitize those results, to be able to profile the customers, to be able to engage with the customers. This all, now AI makes it much, much more simple as compared to earlier way to make models over models over models, right? But I think even operationally...
But it's also giving you better outcomes. I mean, efficiency is one thing, but in terms of the quality of...
Definitely. Definitely. I think it also gives you so much flexibility to change things, you know, because the world doesn't stay the same.
Yeah, and especially given that what you spoke of earlier, right, that it's a discrete outcome that everyone's looking for versus, you know, product that you can you know, staple on and add to pretty much everyone.
So I think AI, so we started work on it right now. I would still say that we are at an early stage right now to be able to pick out those areas and just plug them one at a time. But I would say by next year there'll be, you know, a bigger kind of a wheel turning within our company for sure on the AI.
And let's maybe switch gears to regulation and the regulators. Yeah, how much of a facilitator or a hindrance do you see regulations being for what you're doing? Data is one critical aspect of you know what you do, and I think there, of course, we have you know new laws that everyone's sort of complying with and dealing with right now. But that's just one dimension. I mean, healthcare again, you know, itself is so heavily regulated.
Yeah, so there's a you know insurance regulator.
And then there's insurance. Yeah, I was going to say
insurance regulator. Yeah. And then you have other forms of regulation that we have to kind of comply with, whether it's tax or stuff like that. So I would say, I think, so I remember the first 3-5 years of, you know, of the company. I saw that regulations were very daunting. But I think now I see India having improved substantially in terms, so it doesn't like, you know, come in the front of your head about something which is there.
Yeah.
And I, you know, so the insurance regulator, very progressive. So the objective is to increase penetration of insurance in India. So I think I see regulations being pretty business supportive. In that regard. Every now and then, though, I think we do have some hiccups. And then we take legal opinions, and you know, I think it kind of sorts itself out in India. But it does give you a hiccup. But I think overall, it's good.
As an entrepreneur and as someone who's you know doing this for yourself in a way, and of course for your investors and for others, I think there's this huge debate that's been going on, right? That you know what comes first. You know, you put the building blocks in place while you scale, before you scale. Can you scale without you know putting some of the building blocks? And you know, compliance is one example, but you know, processes, you know, systems, technology. You know, take cybersecurity. But what's your view of the world on that?
Look, as entrepreneurs, it is a very simple thing, which is you can't build everything. You can't make your failures expensive. So you have to.
But a lot of people only realize that once you get there, right? When you see the cost of the failure and realize, oops, you know, maybe I should have done this, you know, sooner than later. But you're not one of those, I'm guessing.
I think, you know, after being 5 years of running a company, you kind of have to learn it. If you don't learn it, you will not be continuing another 5 years. So you have to pretty much very quickly figure out what is worth the investment and what's not. So, you know, I would love to have a thesis. I would love to have some structure to say this will hold a test of the market. And then we face with the inevitable challenge, which is that if we had built more, it would have been too early. And there are times that when you build later,
and the effort of sustaining that,
and you are late by that time. But you'd rather be a little late and hurry it up than make it very expensive, which will affect your survivability.
That's an interesting perspective. Because I mean, the fact is, it's also a moving target, right?
It is a moving target.
Interesting. So, going back to investors, I think you've obviously not raised a lot of capital, and which is, I guess, a good thing because you know gives you that patience and the ability to you know move at your own pace. But what is the value you see your investors have added, you know, by being on board?
You know, I would say one, of course, I think they're very favorable investors. So they kind of have faith in you. I think when you are in a startup mode, you're always feeling your back against the wall, especially in the earlier years. So someone to have faith in you,
I've got your back.
it is a little easy on you. That makes you more comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think the good thing is that all our investors are very, very, they believe in you.
And that goes both ways, I guess, right? I mean,
It goes
you
both
got to have
ways.
faith in them. They got to
Exactly.
obviously have faith in you. That's why they're on board, I guess.
Exactly. But I think to be able to test it and survivability of that kind of relationship, that's important. So we've had investors like that, which is one. And I think number two is, so we are at a point right now where I realize that we don't only want investors, we also want a very strong board.
Yeah.
Because we are, as entrepreneurs, you're always in the woods. And you know that you're in the woods. And you can see it once in a while that, hey, I need to do this, but you can't step out of it. So we made sure that we make a very strong board to kind of straitjacket us. So coming back.
Full circle.
Coming back the full circle to say, now you need to professionalize yourself,
Yeah.
So I think now we are trying to professionalize by straitjacketing ourselves and getting a strong board. And that's where, again, our investors are very good with all the experiences in all the companies to help us move forward more efficiently.
You've touched on an interesting topic. I think the whole, dynamic between founder and a professional board, as you said it. How has that transition been for you?
No, I think it's very good. I think I just hope that I would have done that earlier.
Yeah. Which is what I was alluding to earlier, right?
Yeah.
That's what, I mean, when I said building blocks,
Yeah.
Foundational sort of governance, process, systems.
Yes.
These are not things that are glamorous and,
No, they're not.
And especially when you're chasing growth and, they don't register possibly as
Very
much as they
true.
should.
So as they say, I think, that every entrepreneur should professionalize their company after a while. And coming out of a professional environment, I think what happens is, as an entrepreneur, that you kind of start, your mindset changes. You start looking at other things. I think for you to kind of, again, get locked in by some of those shackles, you can't think clearly.
And that's the right thing to do, right, as an entrepreneur.
And then you have to make these institutions somewhere that you get a mix of the two. So I think for me, that experience of doing that, has been very beneficial, and I wish I could have done that earlier.
As they said, better late than never.
Better late than never.
What about the ecosystem? Again, and maybe who do you see as competition? That's one part of my question, and the other is that we spoke about this earlier about consistency, quality, but how have you seen the other side evolve in terms of, again, I mean, just the sheer number of providers that you deal with? Any trends that you're picking up in terms of how it's shaping up?
So India is changing tremendously. I think it's a new generation coming in. I would say even 7-8 years back, India was about, there was so much mistrust that the partnerships were not trusted to say, hey, I can work with you and we can together kind of, attack the market or kind of win the market. And that's one reason why, in the startup world, everyone got so much money to try and go to the end customer directly, and they want to do everything back end. They want to do backward integration to everything. That's impossible. That's too expensive, and that too within a very limited time. You can probably do it over a period of time.
What about core competence then?
Can't do it in 5-6 years, or some people can, but I think it's typically not possible. So I think in that regard now, markets matured. I think we're seeing a lot of partners, whether it's partners we partner at the back, which is the primary care centers, or the partners we partner with in the front, which could be the insurance companies. So we are working very beautifully with them. And I think it's the environment, it's the people. So, and I'm seeing a much more brighter partnership model emerge in India.
Oh, that's excellent. But where do you see growth coming from going forward? And I know we were chatting about the fact that I guess insurance makes up a substantial part of what you're doing now. Do both go together in terms of growth and future potential?
So health insurance is or health for that matter, is one of the biggest industries of any economy, especially as they become bigger. So take the example of the US, 17-18% of the economy is health insurance, or health for that matter. Top 2 companies. So in the top 10, 2 companies would be health insurance companies.
Yeah.
So in India as well, I think our per capita income is increasing. And I think health becomes a fairly important part in that wallet of any person.
I think that awareness of having or being covered, and
Awareness.
buying insurance as a protection,
Exactly.
as a risk cover.
Yeah. So the awareness is the first part. The capability to buy is another part. The regulation making it easier is the third part. So all of these, and I think the fourth one, which is much, much bigger, is the government saying, I need to take care of the health of
I was
at
going to
least
ask
some
you
part
that.
of the
So,
population.
I think it was in the
Yeah.
press today, right, about health insurance for
Yeah.
people who are over 70 as
Yeah.
one example.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a lot of progress in terms of what the government's
Yeah.
doing for primary
Yeah.
healthcare,
Yeah.
in terms of enabling
Yes.
people to get access.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself tapping into that, or is that
Yes.
feeding into what you're doing?
So that is a long-term game. So the government becoming a part of the government, but I think what government will do in the first part is they will build the kind of ecosystem play.
Yeah.
How will the hospitals work? How will the digitization work? How will the platforms work? What will be the pricings? Or what can be the pricings? So I think all that element will get formalized, which will be very difficult otherwise for individual, private, larger parties to even try and attempt to do it. So, but I think with time, as the government as a player becomes bigger and bigger, then we definitely see, us playing a bigger component in that. But currently, the government is only looking at being a payer for some categories, for some segments of.
But then that expands the
Yeah.
market for you too, I
Oh, yeah.
suppose, for what you're doing.
Yeah, so the market will expand for all these 4 reasons, and that's why we're seeing that healthcare will be very, very large place, and this is where we are playing.
And are you also looking at the discretionary part of healthcare?
Yes. So I'll
Because
tell
that's
you.
again, I mean, there's a segment of the population that's more aware of,
Yeah.
whether it's beauty or
Yeah.
just aesthetics.
So it moves as next step into that. So typically, if you look at how the health insurance space evolves, would be so the health insurance companies are basically risk poolers. So
Yeah.
they'll take money from everyone, whoever is a member of that pool, and someone might want to dip into that, saying that, I had to go to a hospital. Can I do that?
Yeah.
So that's the first phase of the health insurance company. The second phase is to become a health company, and that's where we play. So we are the health component of the health insurance company. And the third component is the discretionary part,
Yeah.
which is, you could be saying, I need to get slimmer. Can you get me, kind of hearing aid or glasses or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
So those are the elements which kind of come, subsequently in this journey.
And are acquisitions a part of your strategy going forward?
Definitely. So again, I think health is such a vast field that you can't build all the assets. But if you're looking at the customers, they want everything. So me as a customer would need a diagnostic, would need a GP, would need pharmacy, would need some fitness, all of those things for any person. So if you want to maintain the lead for us to kind of do some acquisitions in the adjacent spaces, becomes very important for us to stay front.
Yeah. Possibly my last question, Varun, but what is your advice to someone who's starting up now?
I think follow your dreams, have the conviction, have the patience.
First, you got to find those dreams. I mean, no one can have as many dreams as you do, or the passions. Let me put it that way. But
They say the startup ideas are like buses. There's always a next one.
yeah.
So I think once you decide that you want to be, in a startup mode, I think ideally try and find an idea which is your passion. And then I think it's about persistence and just patience.
But it's rare to convert passion into a successful business. It takes a lot.
But that's the dream.
That's a dream, yeah. And don't we all chase dreams?
We chase dreams, totally.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Varun. It's been a pleasure having you here today. You are a dear friend, and I wish you all the success. And I wish HealthAssure all the success. And may you keep adding to your list of passions.
Thanks, Karan. It's a pleasure being here, and thanks. I think it was really good to interact with you on a different mode today.
Yeah, pleasure's mine too.
Thank you again.